So we're going to talk about healthcare and ethics, and basically, your life hangs by a thread of code. AI, healthcare, ethics. That's our topic today. This talk was given in NIT Calicut yesterday, being 11/12/25. So when we look at products, products all follow a particular cycle. And the cycle starts off with if you give them some money, you might find some growth. If you give more money, things might really start to grow. At some point in this product cycle, you'll find it's making about as much money as it's losing. And as things go on, it starts to just lose money, meaning it's not really worth keeping around. We talk about this product cycle because it's money, and it's also AI being a product. AI right now is kind of a hype train. Everybody wants a part of it. CEOs say, hey, I want to be AI too. And when you ask them, oh, what do you want to do with it? And they don't know. They just want to be part of the hype, right? They don't know where it goes. They don't know what it does. They just want to be able to show we do AI too. And the result is, if you look at a $30, $40 billion investment into Gen AI, 95% of those investors are getting nothing in return. So as a result, the hype is cooling down. And we see this Gen AI paradox, where nearly 8 in 10 companies are deploying Gen AI in some form, but roughly the same percent have no material impact on earnings. It's just a waste of money. And it's a trend, right? Now, in healthcare, we actually had this trend a while ago, and this trend was actually for a procedure where you drive a nail through the nose and mess up the brain. And this is supposed to help people who had psychiatric problems, and it's called a lobotomy. Now, we did enough of them to realize it's not a good thing to do, and there's real problems from it. And this is kind of the stage we're reaching, where the hype around this trend is gone. So now what? The hype is fading for a very particular reason. When you start using Gen AI, you see you're going to be cleaning up its mistakes more than anything else. Meaning you need to have robust oversight, interpretability, alignment testing to ensure safe deployment. Now, this is nothing new. We've seen this before in history. When I was a kid, we had this thing called a dot-com boom and bust. And basically, internet became really popular when I was in my teens. So internet starts to take off, AOL, Netscape Navigator, Mozilla Firefox, all that, right? People realize there's something to do in a new place. So they start making dot-com companies. Look at some of these. Ever heard of that? Ever heard of this? Ever heard of these guys? I'm sure you probably heard about one of them. But the dot-com boom had a bust. And if you look at it, you can see an exponential rise followed by a cooling off phase. Now, compared to what AI is going through right now, we see the same kind of trend. Everybody rushing in, trying to make the most of it. But at some point, it's going to cool down. And it's important to learn from history so we're not repeating the mistakes. Now, you can see Google became ascendant from nothing to what it is now. So the question is, why did Google ascend and thrive? Well, they went out with a very simple objective. They want to make a faster and better browser. See, in those days we had Internet Explorer and it was horrible to use. Mozilla was quite good, but it was based on Netscape Navigator, which had problems. So Chrome comes in, they do a good job, and everybody starts shifting towards them. And then they became the evil empire that we actually know. But it's going to be those who are solving real problems who come out on top, not those doing junk work. And this is what we want to take out from this. Because when you see frost on the windshield, there's snow on the horizon. And we have an AI winter that's coming, but it's been mostly around large language models. Those will start to fade. And we know AI is much more than LLM, but this LLM winter is a cooling off phase, not a collapse. There's a reason for this. LLMs have scraped all the data out of the internet that they can. And of that data, 60% is actually nonsense, 20% is genuine, 20% is duplicate, meaning you have a whole bunch of nonsense being fed to large language models that don't really have much more to do. 20% of the content is actually useful and that's been used up, and the rest is this duplication of whatever else exists. Um, so you don't have enough data to reach the next stage of LLM capacities. Summer will come. Seasons change, but it's likely going to be something that's non-LLM or post-LLM architectures. Meaning, when this LLM winter comes through, what we'll see is all the funding going into LLM, becoming a bit more smarter, more efficient LLMs or integrated systems where multiple LLMs come together. The research will also shift towards improving the knowledge grounding, autonomy, memory, multimodality, or reasoning frameworks. So you get tighter, more efficient LLMs, but that's kind of all we get. Winter is coming, but summer will come sooner for some people. Is to get to the next level of LLM, you need to generate so much data. That means having a good electrical grid for the country. Now, it's no doubt the US and China have that in place already. India, maybe not so much. But it's okay. It's not a big problem. It's just what it is. But winter is a chance to hibernate, rejuvenate, and bounce back stronger and learn from others' mistakes because they will make all the mistakes for us as we have to watch and see what they're doing. When the ice thaws, we can come back with more resilience, better questions, and real problems to solve. So we're shifting towards healthcare now, and this is the second coming of AI in healthcare. Let's look at what this possibly could mean. MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, is basically passing magnets or magnetic fields through the body to get them all aligned. When that field passes back, these cells resume their normal state, and you can see what types of tissue you're dealing with. All of that is finally turned into an image for the brain to look at. Our brain to interpret someone else's brain through the eyes. Meaning we're not really using a lot of the data that actually comes out of this, and a lot of that data actually is stored in something called case space. But we don't really have the knowledge on how to utilize 99% of the information received by an MR scanner, meaning we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And there's a lot of this kind of instrumentation in healthcare nowadays. So you can find these examples pretty much anywhere. When AI comes back, it could be looking at something like this. But there's another bigger baby that's being thrown out with the bathwater, and that is ethics. And that's what we're here to talk about. When AI programmers come to talk to doctors about their latest product and how it can help healthcare, this is the response they get. Doctors just don't listen. And there's a reason for it. In healthcare, we have this concept, do no harm, non-malfeasance. Meaning you do your best to help a person, but it should not lead them getting hurt. And it can happen still, but that's what we work to avoid. The flip side is called the fiduciary responsibility, where people come to us and they're expected to get benefits. If you think about it, no one goes to a doctor who's known to give bad results. They go to the ones who are known to give good results. That is our fiduciary responsibility. Now, when you bring in AI, when something goes wrong, we doctors get the blame. So we're going to be careful. And that's really why you see doctors not getting so involved in AI or just ignoring it. I'm going to expand this just a little bit more to be as clear as possible. In India right now, a lot of healthcare is doctor, and people go to a doctor as a point of care. So when they go to a doctor as a point of care, the doctor might need a little more to get things done. So they'll send a patient to a lab or a scan center to get more information. The doctor sends the patient to a scanner lab center, makes their diagnosis, gives their treatment, and there's an undesirable outcome. The doctor gets insulted, and that's part of life. We're used to it. We know that it's okay. Undesirable outcomes can be just a side effect from a drug. It can be somebody not liking the way they feel after they get cured. It could be actually harmful things too. But undesirable outcomes do happen, and we know how to handle it. It's not a big issue. When you get doctors as point of care, And now it's our modern generation who are going into chatbots and AI to learn. When a doctor goes to an AI to guide it in decision making and an undesirable outcome, again, doctor gets the blame. There's no doubt about it. Who told the doctor to go there? They told themselves they got a bad outcome. Now the doctor is to blame. Okay, fine. There is a group of AI people and even just regular people who are looking to make AI be the point of contact, where a person can freely approach AI for all their medical problems. Fine. It's inevitable. Large language models are actually doing that right now. Now, at some point, if AI gets empowered to order labs or scan, then we have a problem. Because if there's an undesirable outcome, the person who approached the AI gets the blame. And it's not all AI models are perfect, so they might have to go and seek out another AI. Again, if things go wrong, the person can blame themselves. So no one is actually that stupid. Just people want to get in the hype train and say the AI is better than the doctor. Fine. Good. But then you can blame yourself when things go wrong. What we're here to talk about today is not all of those things. We're here to talk about this. Doctors using AI and having undesirable outcome in healthcare, because this is really what we have to expand on. And to really expand that, we have to digress a little bit here with the Minority Report. Not the Tom Cruise movie, but let's look at something. Language translation, converting from one language to another. It's a terrific skill for those who can actually do it. If you look at it really, language translation has always been a nuanced skill that takes a lot of intelligence to actually do properly. There's a lot of things that can get lost in translation. You can use this to create problems. If you take this guy right here, he has a reputation for intentionally mistranslating the Vedas to create so much problem that those problems still continue to this day in India. Now, whether you agree with me or not, we actually have a name and a face for that discussion. But with AI, if it introduces a bias into the large language model, you won't know where it's coming from. That's one problem. The next thing is when you make AI deploy everywhere, anyone can touch the AI and use it. Now, it's okay for anyone to go to AI and get language translation done, meaning it's cheaper to go to an AI and get the job done. But that AI won't be as good as a human who understands the nuances of language. So it devalues artistry. AI quality is different. Not all chatbots are that great for particular things, so quality becomes uneven. And even traditional translator jobs will decline because now there's no money in it. All that job went to AI, and the AI is going to screw it up anyway. Meaning, if you want to compliment someone's mother, you could insult them instead, and you wouldn't even know the difference. Now, people will argue with me and say, hey, look, that percent of the Indian population is actually doing language translation work. It doesn't make a difference if you hurt the minorities. It's not a big problem. And it's hard to argue that. Finding a person like this to get the job done properly is not easy. So if you have an AI to do it, it makes sense to use the AI. And you can suffer the consequences. But let's look at a different minority. Robotic surgery. So robots are big in surgery for the past 2 decades. You bring in robots, and now the surgeons lose tactile intuition of what they're looking at. The robot is the interface. If you have students training in a hospital with robots, if there's not enough robots, the students don't get real case experiences. Meaning the whole skill level gets diluted if you don't get access to robots. Buying a robot costs so much money that it's going to widen the tech divide. And your surgeon is now a technician, not really a craftsman anymore. And people can say, look, the surgeons, that's that part of the population. Who cares? Well, you really care when you need a surgeon. And many people do require surgeries in their lifetime. So you don't want to really mess with this kind of a population. But again, it's a minority, and people will argue. I'm trying to make this as irritating as possible so people understand the importance of this. Let's look at the IT sector. Now, the C-suite looks at all the businesses and they look at all the people doing the work. 1 to 2% of our population in India is in the IT sector. Not really a minority, but not exactly a majority. So you have a boss who now employs a senior developer, a junior developer, and an AI. And boss goes to senior developer and says, hey, give me some code that does this and that. Perfect code. When the boss looks at this, they can say, yeah, that's a senior developer. He knows what he's doing. He could also think AI could probably do this better. Now he gives the same job to a junior developer, and there's an error in the code. Boss could think maybe it's not the right profession for them, but you have to consider senior developer was a junior developer at some point. So you start cutting out junior developers, you don't get senior developers. What happens if boss gives a job to an AI and there's an error? Well, hypocrisy. Oh, AI is not perfect, it's okay. Who's going to fix it? Senior developer, but you cut out all the junior developers, so now you have a problem. I want to make this a little bit more irritating for people, and I'm going to talk about consequences. So if you're out for dinner and someone's child is behaving really badly, children can, if you scold them and get them to behave, they could go home and make a deep fake of you making a bomb threat, and now you're a criminal. That's how far out of hand these things can go. What I'm trying to say with all this information is hurting a minority affects the majority. And how? In healthcare, we have breach of privacy, we have profiteering exploitation, we have erosion of clinical integrity, and finally, systemic governance failure. So this is where things become a problem, and these are often terminology that doesn't make sense to the average person or just the IT professional. So I'm going to expand on them. Unconsented data use, shadow data aggregation, vendor data leak, unauthorized model fine-tuning, and record fraud. So those don't mean much. I'll give an example. Say famous actor of Kerala comes and meets me, and I enter my notes. And someone who has no relation to this case goes and looks up this person and finds out what problems they have. Right? That is unconsented data use. That person's private details are leaked for everybody to see. Now, if that leak goes out of the system, then you have shadow data aggregation where people can collect all of this data, be it on that one person or other people. This person now is aggregating things so they can actually be a vendor of data. And if they get hacked or they leak the data out, now it's out in the public for everybody to see. And that can be used to fine-tune particular LLM models. It can, which doesn't sound terrible, but it can also be used for record fraud, meaning if a famous actor comes with back pain and there's a disc bulge, right? Now, if you make a report that says this person doesn't actually have a disc bulge, but they're taking off work, that can be translated into them sabotaging the film industry, which can make a problem for a lot of other people. Basically, what I'm saying is every patient has a right to the privacy of their files. And if you don't keep these systems safe, you have a violation of patient autonomy, confidentiality, and trust, meaning no patient will ever trust a doctor with their private details. That makes it harder for us to treat these people and get them the outcomes they want. This security breach will prevent a person from improving because it prevents us from doing our fiduciary duty. It's a big thing for doctors. I'm not sure how much sense it's going to make for those of you who are not in healthcare. The next thing is profit and exploitation. So now we have famous actor back pain records are flawed, are incorrectly made, and now you can have misleading AI marketing where someone can say, I walked into famous actor's room and I gave him this special back brace, and now he's wonderful. So if everybody sees famous actor got this special back brace and now they're feeling better, they might go and buy it too. But it's all false. Proprietary model monopolies. You get people who leak the data, they collect the data, they make a model, and now they control all the data. They have a monopoly over it. which is really a problem because you have to pay in to get into their program, and they've stolen it from you. The other thing we find is AI-driven insurance discrimination, which is not as common in India, but it's more common in countries where you have multiple races mixed, like America. The bottom line is someone goes to a doctor for healthcare, their data is leaked, and now you have commercial gain or power consolidation at the expense of fairness, transparency, equitable healthcare access, which is a real problem. That's not the end of the problem. What we find now is a lot of young doctors are going to AI to learn. They're not looking to us who've actually made mistakes and learned from it. So the AI can have mistakes in it, but they won't know. From there, if your AI has learned things wrong, you can have biased triage algorithms that can actually hurt a person. They come with an emergency. You get the symptom that seem to be relatively okay, but they actually have a very bad problem, right? You treat them the wrong way because they don't have serious symptoms initially, and now they're hurt. The other problem is many times when this data is owned, it's sitting in a black box system where you can't actually influence it or improve it. So you have a bad system that's made to just make money promoting various commercial things, but then it actually doesn't give good information and you can't improve it. So what happens as a result is younger doctors get compromised medical reasoning and accountability. I'm not saying that all doctors who use AI to guide their thought process are wrong, but there's a level of maturity a clinician requires before they can actually use an AI and not have problems. Systemic and governance failure is another whole issue, and that is going to be basically synthetic fraud um, undermining research. So, say we have our famous actor, he has a back pain, he gets a brace. If someone makes a publication showing we gave this many thousands of people this brace and their back pain went away, and it's actually not real. Well, they're again using medical research to market their product. The other thing is these monopolies will eventually collapse. Eventually, they just outgrow themselves and they can't handle things and they collapse. Now, you have a group of people who are actually using these things and they can't get access to it and they don't have the clinical skills to decide on their own. And the last thing is lack of regulation and oversight. So, again, you can't control these things because they're not in your hands. So, misuse destabilizes public health, research integrity, or healthcare governance. So you can see there's a scope for really hurting people by using artificial intelligence in healthcare. The question is, when will that crash happen? You want to go with an analogy for this? This is a car. The car is called healthcare. No car is called healthcare, but for this example, it is. And every car will have a passenger, and the passenger will just keep on talking, blah, 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 right? And the passenger here is public opinion, administration, and patients. We love AI, we hate AI. This is better than the doctor, this is worse than the doctor. A passenger can say whatever it wants. If you ignore it, it's not good. If you listen too much, you can go crazy. Who's the driver in this car? That's us, the doctor. And you can see there's a real problem. The doctor is blindfolded. So they can't see where they're going. We, as clinicians, don't understand what all AI can do, right or wrong. Now, the gas pedal in this car is actually the AI. You touch it, the car will jump, and it can go forward as fast as you want. The problem is, if you're blindfolded, you can't see where you're going. So you could hit something within 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years. Something could bite you back from the past where you did something wrong, you don't even know what it is, right? But all of this is a problem. Now, the problem I have with a lot of AI practitioners is when you ask them, where's the brakes? They don't know what the brakes look like. They want to put more fuel in the gas cylinder and then make the motor run and get that car to move, right? They want the AI to take off, but they have no idea how to control it when things go wrong. So if there's no brakes, then what? Well, the bad news is the good news, and no one really knows. So because no one actually knows, that's actually an opportunity for people to grow. And how are we going to grow? Well, if you don't have brakes, you definitely have senses, you definitely have a brain, you definitely have no brake, fine, but you can definitely take your foot off the gas pedal. And if all those fail, you definitely have this. Now, what does this mean? So, data protection and privacy laws, legal rulings and liability of court orders, certification and standards, something we're going to stress on in this talk, regulation specific to AI, and technical control and oversight. The question we have to ask ourselves, is it time to control AI? If you control it, it's not going to grow. If you don't control it, it's going to make problems for actual people. The thing is, for large language models, a lot of the things they run on is data that's been scraped from the internet. You can't unscrape it. You can't put it back where it came from. The training sets are proprietary black boxes, so the abuse potential is already baked in for models already trained. What's out right now can already make problems. Simply put, we've reached a point of no return. The next thing is who owns the data. So control is unevenly distributed, and the gatekeepers are private, and the safeguards are voluntary. We know who has all of our data. If they put in too many safeguards, they won't get enough data. If they have none, no one's going to trust them. So they put some up as a token to show us, yes, we're protecting your data, but actually they're not. So if they don't care who controls the owners of the data, well, government of India should be able to. But the problem is these are multinational corporations and governments don't have direct oversight over them. The government is still trying, and it's trying with the DPDP Act, but it's not designed for trillion token models. Enforcement is slower than the snail crossing the screen. And there's no AI privacy laws. Regulation lags years behind capabilities. So the time it takes to get a problem, to get a law in place to control it, you can have another hundreds of cases coming up in that time frame. The law moves very slowly on these kinds of things. It's all new. It's not its fault. And that's when things get a bit out of hand. Where if you have breaks, it doesn't mean there's no misuse. It only limits the surface effects. We can only limit what a model says, but not what it actually knows. Meaning, if the weight's out in the wild, fine-tuning can bypass safeguards easily. Synthetic data and model-generated content can reintroduce the same biases and misinformation that regulators tried to remove. So even when the models behave politely, what we see, they may still be built on tainted or misused data, and you can't change that. So we spent all this time building up to the problem. Let's talk about a solution. Data governance is structurally weak. In short, we can't secure what we can't trace. And real breaks require something really radical. Licensing regimes, data provenance tagging, model watermarking, and global AI treaties. I had to digress with another example. Bear with me. We're talking about gun control laws to make this kind of simple and straightforward. Let's look at two countries, Switzerland and America. Big differences in population count, but the number of people owning guns in these countries is pretty much the same. Now, when you look at gun homicide, it's 30 times higher in the US. You buy a gun, you buy your ammo, you can shoot whoever you want. If your skin color is okay, you don't go to court, you don't go to jail, and nothing happens to you. In Switzerland, you can't just do that. The law sits between these two things. You can buy a gun, but you have to buy your ammunition separately. In America, the powers of the people who make the guns. You buy a gun, you buy your ammo, you shoot whoever you want, it doesn't make a difference. When that comes into AI, what we're saying is you have to keep them separated, or you'll tie your own rope. And this is really how these things come into play. If you can't keep data away from the AI or control how much goes into it, you can't control it at all. The question people ask is there any money in actually regulating AI? We all need food to eat. Not everyone can cook well, so someone cooks for them. Someone makes it a profession. Someone makes a machine that produces high volumes of low quality food. And people get sick, and now you have an inspector come in, right? There's money at every stage of this game. But we're at this stage where we have high volumes of low quality AI all over the place. No one knows what's really good. We don't know when bad things can come. It's time to regulate. But people say, ha, show me the money. What does it look like? So the money from ethical AI really comes from compliance and certification services. So auditing these AIs, making sure they have a certification that says that, and insurance that they will not do wrong things. AI safety tools, software that monitors and filters AI outputs, and then from there, consulting, advising governments, companies on ethical frameworks. Premium AI offering. So AI that is ethically certified can charge more money. Research and development grants. So governments will fund safe AI initiatives, but not the other ones. And what's the net value of this? The AI governance and compliance markets are worth tens of billions of US dollars over the next decade. We have enough AI, we just wait to regulate it properly. The next greatest startup will be safe AI. And whatever AI you're looking at is going to be a safe AI. That's what people really need right now. Of course, what does it look like? It looks something like this, where you have public oversight. People will tell you when they think things are wrong. They might be right or wrong, we don't know, but they'll tell you. They definitely have a voice and they speak, and you want to hear what they say. The next thing is the technical side, the healthcare professionals that are actually using this. We will also tell you when we find things that don't make sense. Just please listen to us. The brain behind the AI is actually the tech people who understand how the coding goes and how to make all these problems happen, how to solve them. But when we say, hey, there's a problem, be it the public or the doctors, we need safety checks, explainability as to why it happened, and to find bias detection. It's good to have breaks, and those breaks would be legal regulations for deployment and certification standards. And then, of course, the gas pedal. Organizations. So you control how much an organization can pump the gas pedal. Ethical AI guidelines like beneficence, non-malfeasance, all the things doctors are trained to do, this AI should be trained on too. Autonomy, justice codified for AI design and use, industry-wide codes for conduct similar to engineering and medical ethics. The thing is, this is an opportunity. If you don't see it, you're going to miss it. Opportunity is not going to wait for you to realize it's there. This is the next hype train, and all the needed data has been scraped already, just here to refine it. Public trust is another thing. Clear ethical rules increase adoption and societal acceptance. Safety and risk mitigation reduces AI accidents, discrimination, and misuse. Prevent regulatory backlash. So proactive ethics frameworks can prevent harsh reactive legislation that stifles innovation. And lastly, market differentiation. Companies with certified ethical AI can attract customers, partners, or investors. The bottom line really is this. The real stupidity will beat artificial intelligence every single time. And that real stupidity is this greed for getting money and making AIs that have no real control or ethics.